2025 Pittsburgh Regional Transit to order. The first order of business will be the pledge. Please rise if you're able for Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, next we'll do roll call. Member Turman. Present. Member Versailles.
Here.
Member Fan.
Present.
Representative Abney.
Here.
Senator Williams.
Here.
Member McClenny.
Here.
Member Berdinger.
Bergen. Here.
And then I believe remotely we have Member Suker
Present.
and Member Todd.
Present.
Thank you for all members attending. The next item of business will be the approval of the minutes from the July 25th, 2025 regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve? Second. Motion second heard. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is the report of the Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Kellett.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us virtually. Thank you. If you braved the fog and the traffic that somehow gets snarled with the fog, thank you for joining us. I'd want to start on a somber note. With a heavy heart, I need to announce the passing of several members of the PRT family since the last time we met. We lost two of our active operators, Darren Morris and Kevin Adams. Now, it doesn't hurt less when somebody is active versus retired, but these are faces we see every day. These are folks who we interact with. These are people we were looking forward to seeing at our next holiday gathering. So it strikes us a little stronger when it's our friends that we see on a daily basis. We've also lost retired employees, operators Thomas Haberman and Glenn Moss, maintainer James Schoberg, service person Gary Griffiths, and stock person Jean Hyman. These are our colleagues, our friends, and our members of this larger family that keeps our community moving. So to our families and friends and all of our coworkers, we extend our deepest condolences. May we have a moment of silence for their memory. Thank you. Now, there are two important topics I'd like to talk about this morning, and one of them the board will be addressing shortly. I would like to speak plainly first about our funding situation. Earlier this month, when it became abundantly clear that we were not going to see a long-term funding solution as part of the budget, at least not this year, we followed SEPTA's lead and asked PennDOT for permission to shift money from our capital budget into our operating budget. Now, let me clarify, this is not a flex. Under Act 89, PRT and SEPTA are able to ask for a waiver to move capital funding over into operating. This is not new money. This is money coming away from our needed infrastructure projects. We could ask for up to an entire year's worth of capital, but every dollar that gets moved into operating is a project that won't get done or won't get done this year. Needed improvements to modernize, to improve efficiencies, to bring improvements back that we have promised to our riders will be delayed or pushed out. We will not defer anything which is safety related or safety sensitive or related in any way whatsoever. We have debt servicing from the North Shore Connector to finish taking care of. We have federal grants which require a local match. That's impacted too. So this is not new money. This is money that we had lined up for a purpose that now has to be put somewhere else. Now, since that decision was made, we've had a lot of people saying, hey, congratulations. Hey, nice job getting that money. And I want to clarify, this is not the end of the conversation. It's not a long-term funding solution. It is covering your mortgage with your car payment, for lack of a better expression, right? Your utilities are paid because you didn't get groceries. That's where we are. This is not a win. This is not a solution. It's not the long-term stability that we have been fighting for. Critically, this keeps all our service on the street, and this avoids fare increases. So Pittsburgh remains in the top 10 nationally for fares and doesn't move into the top 5. It avoids these catastrophic shifts to service. But again, we have these impacts further out on capital. We've taken the money meant to repair and modernize our system, money which should have gone to improving service for the future, and used it to keep the doors open today. So when you have been on our rail line and frustrated because catenary came down or a wheel got chipped riding over a tough section, and then we had to come back and retrue it, and that does something to the wheel flange. Did I get that right, Dawn? Thank you. When that impacts your service and you can't make a connection or go anywhere else, those are the changes that you are going to continue to see because we don't have the capital to shut that line down and make those improvements. This is what it means for you. If you are at a busway station stop that is a very uninviting concrete block, looks more like a prison than it looks like a bus shelter, you will still be in that. I'm looking for a word I can say publicly. You'll still be in that shelter rather than getting something which is better for your experience, because that's what we can afford to do. So let's make no mistake, it's a Band-Aid, but there's still another wound on the other side. It is a temporary measure. We appreciate the ability to do this. I cannot say enough good things about our legislators, not just because you're board members, who have gone to the mattresses to fight for funding, and we will continue to have this conversation. So some projects will still move forward. So this comes at a cost. Our communities will see this money invested to them in service, but the needed capital will be deferred. At our October meeting, look for us to have more information on what this means. It takes time to competently pull 15% of your projects out and cascade that over 5 years. So we are thrilled that we are protecting service. We are thrilled that we are protecting the good jobs that PRT provides. We are thrilled that fares aren't going up, but this is not this conversation is not over. So look for us to continue that going forward. I would continue to talk about the budget, but I think that's a sore spot. So we'll just keep going. Second item I'd like to talk about is the waterfront and service at the waterfront. I'm sure nobody's heard anything about that in the past couple of days, right? I'm sure nobody's here to talk to us about that today. Earlier this year, the property owners told us we could no longer use the bus stops directly in front of Target and Giant Eagle. Now, PRT can ride on any public street anywhere we want, but when a street is private, as many of the roads at the waterfront are, we require permission to be on the property. So yes, owners can tell us we just can't go somewhere. So riders who used to be able to get off and on right in front of the Target or the Giant Eagle will now have to walk nearly 1,000 feet through the parking lots just to get to their bus stop. You're taking your groceries, you're asking grandma to take their groceries and go 1,000 feet to go to a stop. Yes, we can get other stops in there. Yes, we can work on it. This is not a solution that we would have wanted. But again, these are private roads that we can work on. Now we've been engaging with our elected officials and our stakeholders to make sure they understand what this change will do for them. We want to make sure that they know that we have what we can do to be part of a solution here to make sure folks are getting to where they need to go, and that grandma doesn't have to go so far to get her groceries onto the bus. And again, more thank you. I cannot thank our supporters, our advocate friends, and our elected officials enough who have paid attention to this. It is always a great thing to be in a city where transit is important enough that moving a bus stop gets on the nightly news. So we appreciate your support and your advocacy in this issue. So those are the big issues for us to talk about today. I do want to remind folks that next week is National Week Without Driving. A week without driving is encouraging you to get out of your car, not so you can see how it is to go without it, but so you can see how much easier life is when we're not all driving everywhere. Whether you're walking, whether you're biking, whether you're catching a ride with us or catching a ride with somebody else, anytime that you are not adding cars into traffic, you are doing better for your roads, you're doing better for your environment, you're doing better for your mental health. So if you are somebody who might usually drive, go ahead and hang up those keys next week and come join everybody else who isn't always driving. Madam Chair, unless there's questions, that concludes my remarks.
Any questions from them? No? Thank you. We're going to move on to public comment. We're moving public comment to the front of the agenda because many individuals expressed that they would like to comment related to the budget, which is on the agenda today. So that's why we've moved it for this meeting. Our first speaker is Andrew Hussein. I see Andrew. Hi, Andrew. He always gets to be first. You're good at signing up, aren't you?
Can't take any chances, apparently, you know.
Well, welcome.
Good morning, Andrew Hussein, President of the Allegheny County Transit Council. So first off, I'm not going to say too much on the budget because I'm sure plenty of other people will be, but I do hope that you approve it, and I do also hope that, as Catherine said, that you all continue the fight because it's going to be a long one, and it's certainly not done. With regards to the waterfront, as my next topic, I understand that that's not a Port Authority thing, but I do hope that PRT continues to do what they can to work with the property owners there to mitigate that situation. But on to my main topic this morning, and I'm not here to hold emotional therapy or, pull any punches for anybody when it comes to criticism, but I'm going to repeat some concerns that were raised at this week's Allegheny County Transit Council meeting, as well as some concerns that members on this board rose in previous committee meetings, specifically the most recent ones, with regards to when unions do these service changes and the continued habitual, and this has been brought to your attention many times, the language when it comes to service changes being vague, obtuse, and often downright misleading. Two examples that I found out just this Wednesday at Transit Council meeting was when you kind of snuck out the schedules there early. I didn't even get no announcements that they were out. Found out that the 75 changes that you're hyping up as a weekday only improvement of 15 to 30-minute headway, you neglect to point out literally either in the schedule or in the language that it exclusively applies to rush hour only. Only rush hour is going to achieve that 15 to 30-minute benefit. The rest of the schedule, weekday and weekend, might as well all be Sunday holiday because you're keeping the rest of the schedule outside of rush hour at 40 minutes plus headway. And then there's this thing of where you continue to say trip time changes, trip modifications, et cetera, I hate to accuse PRT of a bait and switch, but it's good to see that some of my advice is being taken when you think about eliminating trips. Instead, you shift those trips. But unfortunately, I just noticed on two routes that I use this pick that yins are trying to end routes earlier, particularly flyer and express routes like P76. So you need to get this together.
Next speaker is Ralph Williams. And I'm going to try to keep everyone to their time. They usually announce that just because we have a lot of speakers. So Ralph Williams. Ralph's not online. Ralph Williams. Okay, I'll make a note.
He's still waiting to get on.
Okay.
Someone wants that in the online.
Okay, we could just let me know when Mr. Williams is available. James Love. James Love. James Love, do we see James online? Okay, again, there's James pops on. Sometimes there is confusion because we did move the comments towards the front of the agenda, so I'm gonna keep that in mind if someone pops on to provide the ability to speak. Brian Hatgalikis.
Yes.
Sorry, Brian, I try very hard with your last name. I think I did an okay job this time.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Nice to see you again. Nice for you to be here.
Thank you, Catherine, right?
It's Jennifer,
Oh,
but that's okay. It's a compliment, I say, if anyone calls me Jennifer.
Sorry.
And you can sit down.
Okay, I'm good with standing.
You want to stand?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, the mic is.
Mic.
Right there, you're-
Okay, thank you, PRT, and thank you, board. Good morning. My name is Brian Hatchalakis. I want to say we're not done yet, but thank you for at least having a solution to give us some breathing room for the next 2 years. Please make it so that we can have sustainable service fully. It seems like now we're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul is what this is. But as long as we can get what we need, I'm happy with, for the time being. If we expect to be sustainable in the future, we should fight for money in the future for our services with transit. Because if we don't, we might as well go back to the dark ages in Pennsylvania, meaning with zero trips and zero and it would ruin the economy too. So please pass this money for this morning so that we can have some breathing room and continue the conversation. Thank you for keeping us all in mind, and thank you for going with SEPTA to do what you're doing now. That's basically all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Laura Chu Weens. Welcome, Laura.
Good morning, PRT Board and Leadership. My name is Laura Chu Weens. I am the Executive Director of Pittsburghers for Public Transit, and I also lead Transit for All PA. While we are feeling relief this morning at the postponement of the service cuts and fare hikes, I think we all agree that what has been enacted through this capital maneuver is not a solution. We have merely traded one set of problems for another. I won't go into that because I think we all know what the impacts are of that proposal. But I just want to say our coalition is statewide. Other transit agencies across the Commonwealth cannot flex their capital dollars to operations. And so transit workers and transit riders in small and rural communities are being left completely in the cold. This is true particularly for the Lehigh Valley, facing imminent cuts and fare hikes, and shared ride users, where the structural deficit next year is over $55 million. The budget is not done until it is done. We are calling on state legislators on the PRT board and your allies to pass a budget that at minimum includes a 2-year stopgap funding measure that averts near-term harm in non-Pittsburgh, non-Philly communities and our statewide shared ride services, and has a plan for backfilling our capital dollars. Okay. I want to be clear, even though PRT service cuts are on pause, we will not settle for maintaining status quo for the next 2 years. PRT makes decisions about service changes around communications and marketing and around priorities that affect the availability and usefulness of the system every day. We need you to use that power to build a system that works for us now, a system that is worth fighting for. What we see right now ain't it. As 2 examples, it has been widely communicated that 6 routes and over 400 riders a day are going to be displaced from bus stops in front of Target and Giant Eagle at the waterfront. But on Wednesday, the PRT service change announcement was posted online, and the announcement change says only that buses will operate on East Waterfront Drive, where stops are apparently now, in fact, also being removed because they're deemed unsafe by PRT. If you look more closely at the 64 bus timetable, it says that there's actually no reference whatsoever to Amity on the map, on the timetable, on the schedule, on the stops, and talks about the waterfront entrance stop, which is so nebulous that it doesn't actually refer to any specific place. Also, the 54 is having a major service change in this upcoming schedule. It will no longer pick up passengers in either direction on Liberty Avenue from 32nd Street to the Bloomfield Bridge, which serves over 60 passengers a day. But on the schedule change announcement, it says only that, quote, some daily trip times have changed. In the linked timetable, there's not one reference to Liberty Avenue, certainly not that riders are not to be picked up there at all and will be dropped off in some cases on Penn Avenue on the return. These are appalling oversights guaranteed to leave riders stranded and confused. And these are 2 of the most anticipated and largest service changes. More than half of all route schedules in PRT systems are changing on October 19th for an ostensibly status quo situation. This is routine. Riders' lives upended with unclear communications about changes for service that still doesn't show up when scheduled. We are calling on the board to define metrics of accountability for PRT. And we are not talking about the bad faith proposals that some in our state legislature would propose, the ones that are thinly veiled mechanisms for defunding, policing, and privatizing our system, but rather metrics of accountability that show that our transit system is working well for riders and workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Williams, Ralph, are you online? Ralph Williams, it's your turn to speak.
I am, Madam Chairperson. Thank you.
Very welcome.
great
Please
to
begin.
It's great to be here today. I'm the former president of the Allegheny County Transit Council. Just because of that, that doesn't mean I don't keep track of what goes on with transit. What I'm seeing here is a disgrace, because what's happening right now is you're cutting, or what you call, all right, adjustments. And what you're doing is you're adjusting these routes improperly for people. Now, the one thing I'm really frustrated with right now is the loop for the 81 and the 82 and the 83. You have to do something about that. There's a lot of elderly people. My brother lives up in the Hill District. He works downtown and can barely walk. All right. For him to have to walk extra to go catch his bus is unacceptable to me. And it's not only to me, but to the folks up in the Hill District and all across that whole route that use the 81 Lincoln, which is a very good extensive route. I've driven it. I'm an ex-operator as well. All right. So we need to do something about that loop. These cuts, these adjustments, now that you're going to get some money from the state, need to stop. You need to start making some kind of a plan to keep some of this stuff together. And as far as the waterfront goes, what you need to do is extensively talk to management there and find out what's going on. Get the real truth from them. They're putting stories out on the news that probably are unacceptable to a lot of us. All right, that too is unacceptable. I know I've seen elderly people. I've seen folks in wheelchairs. I am in a wheelchair that would have to go the extra mile to get to the bus stop there, and it's also at a dangerous intersection. If you're planning on keep having them use the one bus stop that's outside of the Giant Eagle. All right. So please step up, do something about some of this stuff, and let's get this done. And let's run PRT the way it needs to be run. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Our next speaker is Amy Zace. Amy's not here. Is Amy online? She was registered online. Okay. Just again, make a note for that. And if she pops on, can you let me know? Thank you. Next speaker is Fonda Doucet. Hi, Fonda Doucet. Fonda, are you online? It's your turn to speak.
Yes, I am. Good morning to everyone in attendance. My name is Fonda Doucet. I'm a former employee at PRT. PRT needs to fix the abuse of money by their HR department. No bandages would be needed if they fix the abuse by the HR department. PRT's HR employs petty tactics to annoy current and former employees, which waste taxpayers' money. This is just one example, but when I was terminated on June 2023, I was offered a substantial severance package, a little less than $30,000. Severance packages are usually not offered to those who have been separated from employment for willful or wanton misconduct. Keep that in mind, which is the standard for precluding a person from collecting unemployment compensation. I did not accept the package and left the document on the table at PRT before gathering my things. The severance document was then FedExed to my home. That had to be expensive, especially since on occasion I would walk to work. I never had any intentions on signing the document. When I applied for unemployment, PRT's HR department challenged my claim. This blocked the claim and held up the funds for about 8 weeks. The hearing officer scheduled the hearing for 8 weeks. When the time came, no PRT representative appeared for a hearing. I informed the hearing officer that this was a tactic to get back at me because I didn't accept their severance package. He was unaware that I was offered a severance package. PRT had ample time to cancel or reschedule, but instead they chose to waste taxpayers' money, waste the time of the hearing officer. They had no regards for government time or money. HR is a department, it's creating a perfect storm for a class action. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Doucet. Next speaker is Chris Beam. Okay, Chris Beam, okay, again, I'll make a note. And Chris pops on, can you let me know? Chris Sandvig, let's see Chris here. Is Chris register online or in person?
Good morning. I am online today.
Hi, Chris. Sorry about that. Welcome. You're up.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Samig, founder and executive director of Mobilify Southwestern Pennsylvania. First, I would like to acknowledge the CEO's remarks this morning. Mine are very much in the same line here about the fact that nothing has really been solved with this issue. It's just been pushed down the road. And if anything, we will be facing an even worse situation in the next 2 years if nothing is done soon. I appreciate the governor, PennDOT, and local leaders coming forward to save PRT service for the time being, but we were really left no choice. This was the best thing we could have in the short term. I would say this is robbing Peter to pay Peter. Paul isn't even involved in this. So for now, we get a bit of a reprieve. But this is no way to run a transit agency, and I hope the Commonwealth recognizes that the day of reckoning is coming unless we get decisive action soon. I'm actually going to go a little off script here and also talk about the waterfront because I saw something last night in the news that I would like to read real quick here. That was a comment from the general manager of the properties. In an effort to maintain a family-friendly atmosphere, best serve our patrons and allow our retailers the best possible setting to provide their services, the waterfront owners have decided to partially terminate the PRT license dedicated to the bus stops in front of Giant Eagle and Target. I'm not sure exactly how transit is not family friendly and how this is best serving the patrons. And so my hope is that the property owner works with leadership in the county and elsewhere, as well as with PRT to restore this service. I think this is absolutely atrocious that this is happening. Like I said, I'm going a bit off script here because I don't usually comment on these sorts of things, but how can we have a transit agency that serves the people if the places that people need to get to are being cut off to them by the property that they need to get to? And with that, I'll stop. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sandvig. The next is Kelda Gorman. Kelda, hi. Welcome.
Thank you. This is by far like not a permanent solution, and we know that we need to figure out how to make it permanent. There were supposed to be solutions over many times over the years. I call on the advocates within our community, the board of PRT, as well as state officials to try to figure out what went wrong with those solutions. How can they be implemented? How could they possibly be put into effect so we can come into a permanent situation? Because what this is gonna cause is problems with using the services in the first place. Because like this yesterday on the trolley, I almost had a wheel taken out because of the gap between the trolley and the platform. And moving this money is going to mean not being able to use public transit. And the majority of the folks using public transit have some need that requires maintenance to be able to be done. Whether it's parents, the elderly, disabled folks, it does not matter. And I'm really, really afraid of possible lawsuits because of the safety and concerns that I have witnessed on our routes because of having to reroute this money. And so I'd be interested in learning more about how we plan to move forward and how we could mitigate the harm that's going to come to this, to the folks already using the services.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ross Nicotero. Hi, Ross.
Morning.
I like to think.
Good morning, Madam Chairperson Liptak, distinguished members of the PRT Board. My name is Ross V. Nicotero III. I'm the President Business Agent of the Amalgamated Transit Union of Local 85 here in Pittsburgh, representing 2,200 members that are your employees. I'm also honored to serve as the Chairman of the Pennsylvania Joint Conference Board, which represents another 17 ATU properties throughout the Commonwealth. First, I'd like to thank Governor Shapiro, Lieutenant Governor Davis, their staffs, and their teams for allowing to make this happen. I appreciate the board for supporting this to rescind the 35% service reduction and the 9% increase that could have went in effect in February. While this prevents layoffs to some of the members and hardship to the taxpayers of Allegheny County, while we move money from capital fund to use it to operations, this is a short-term fix, like many of the speakers ahead of me mentioned. In fact, like Chris mentioned, it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Myself and my leadership team have traveled to Harrisburg numerous times over the last 18 months, searching and pushing for a long-term dedicated funding for transportation that increases with inflation. While meeting with Governor Shapiro and Lieutenant Governor Davis on multiple occasions, trying to find a solution for this problem with no resolve, it's not because of their lack of hard work and diligent work in support of the ATU and union labor. I pledge to you, Local 85's leadership will continue to push our elected officials, including a couple of friends of transit that sit in front of me today. We must fund transit long-term, not only for my members, the taxpayers of this state, the taxpayers of Allegheny County. Moving forward to 2026, it will be the 250th anniversary of the United States. Multiple events are scheduled throughout the Commonwealth of PA. Our brothers and sisters from Philadelphia will be hosting the World Cup of Soccer. They will also be hosting the All-Star Game for Major League Baseball. And as I sit here before you, we are 211 days when Pittsburgh will be cast in the national spotlight hosting the NFL Draft here in the Golden Triangle. That brings me to why I'm sitting here in front of you today. We are 277 days from the collective bargaining agreement between Pittsburgh Regional Transit and the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 85 is set to expire on June 30th. While the collective bargaining agreement is clear, we are supposed to work together for the better part of the enterprise. My members, the outstanding men and women of Local 85, have went above and beyond the last 4 years during many tumultuous times, quite frankly, to save the management of PRT because they're inept decision-making. There'll be a lot of interesting decisions made by management in the upcoming weeks. Some will actually take place today. The biggest in the near future is when PRT reaches out to Local 85 again for their assistance to how to settle and solve the transit tunnel issue. Rest assured, Local 85 will be here to solve management's bad decision-making once again. My members have become quite good at it, unfortunately. So as we move towards June 30th, just remember, Local 85 has tightened its belt over the years many times and did our fair share to help the enterprise. Now it's time for Pittsburgh Regional Transit to do the same. My members have earned it, and they deserve it. The next 9 months will speak volumes, not only the direction of transit here in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, but the direction that PRT chooses to move forward with the relationship with Local 85. I thank you and appreciate you for your time.
Speaker is Ryan Matthews. Welcome.
Hey, I'm Ryan Matthews, zip code 15102. There are exactly two differences between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. The first difference is that Philadelphia doesn't know how to pronounce the word water properly. Pittsburgh doesn't know how to pronounce most other words properly. The second difference between the two cities is the circumstance that our public transit agencies find ourselves in right now. Just by circumstance, kind of randomly happenstance. Pittsburgh didn't yet make our cuts that were proposed. Philadelphia's SEPTA already made one or two rounds of service cuts and fare increases when somebody told us, I guess we were bluffing, and now we're going to use 2 years of funding that's unsustainable to kind of plug that in the meantime. I'm actually really pleased with PRT's opening statement today. Totally on the same page with that. That's great. Everybody here is also on the same page, though, of course, that we need something that's actually sustainable and long-term and permanent. That's what we've been asking for the last several months. And so I ask that everybody please think about this long and hard and carefully. What do I really mean by this? My message today is a paradox. There is no funding crisis. At the same time, the funding crisis has not been solved. Thank you.
How do you this time? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Regina Anderson. Good to see everyone on the board. Thank you for letting us speak. I'd like to start by saying I wonder if I would like to invite all the members on the board to participate in the Week Without Driving next week. And also there is a press conference at the City County Building on Tuesday, the 30th at 9 a.m. on the main steps. And if you would please come to that, that would be great. The board plays such an important role for the public. We rely on you to critically assess everything that PRT gives you, everything. The fact that we had someone speaking online about HR is like you have a tough job. And you may not look at those kinds of things, but it's tough to run a large agency. However, people in the public like myself, I live in Highland Park. We moved here 13 years ago so my husband could get a PhD at CMU. I'm a professional. I sustained a serious brain injury 3 years ago. And so I drive when I can now, but I cannot always drive. And we have lived in cities all over the world. I've lived and worked in cities all over the world, and I take public transit because it's good. We need it to be good in Pittsburgh. I will say that of the different, I'm not going to talk about the funding crunch, but I was glad to hear the many details that different speakers gave about specific routes and problems and miscommunications from the board to the public. There's many ways to measure what a good system is, and something as simple as good scheduling is also lacking. So it's from all different levels that we need more, better targeted efforts from PRT, and I am not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. We continue to have cuts over time. The bus drivers that I've spoken to are upset because unrealistic schedules, which so they can't get their breaks and they're driving fast. It's not safe. And so PRT is not supporting the drivers, giving them schedules that are realistic so they don't get the flack from the public. That and of course, Highland Park is one example. We had 71A and B both going downtown. Some time ago, 71As only stop in Oakland now. But besides that, there's bunching in the scheduling. And so when I can't speak clearly, it's my cognitive issues because of my concussion. But having buses come on the half hour, 71A and B at the same time, obviously I can't get as much service because I have to wait half hour to get anywhere. Whereas before it was more, if the 71A came at one point, 71B came 15 minutes later. Sorry for talking over.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tiara Collins. Tiara Collins, not online, so I'll make a note. Please let me know if Tiara pops on. Mary Gansak. I said that wrong. Boy, that's bad.
St. Mary's Restaurant.
I don't know when she's on. Hopefully I can pronounce her name properly next time. Malcolm Hawkins. Okay, Malcolm's not online. Michelle McMillan. Michelle here. Michelle McMillan. Not here. Okay. Nicole Nesby.
Almost registered online.
Nicole Nesby. Thank you.
Yeah, it's can't join. Linda had wanted to register but had trouble getting access. Is it possible for her to speak in instead?
Linda, if you don't mind, we'll call you last after our last speaker. Is that okay? Is that okay with your time schedule? No one objects to that? The members object? No? Okay, thank you. I should have asked first. Thank you. Next is Sean Pastor. Hi, Sean. Welcome.
Welcome. How's everybody today? Thing is, waterfront. What is going on? Why can't we seriously fight these owners and say, look, people need service down there. You're going to have seniors and elderly individual. You're going to have seniors and people with disabilities walk from John Eagle and Target all the way down to Waterfront Drive with tons of grocery bags, and it's going to get worse if we can't come with a solution against the owners and stop this from happening. You're going to deprive them from riding transit if this happens. You can't allow that. I lived down there for years, and we always had service down the waterfront. Now, you can't. Now it's just going to be, it's going to get worse. You can't do this. You can't have the elderly people, you can't have elderlies and seniors, well, elderly and people with disabilities go down to the waterfront and have no access to stores. They're going to have to walk through parking lots with tons of bags in the rain, in the snow. And people are going to end up tripping and falling if there's ice. That's not a good look. We got to fight for it. We got to fight for these cuts to not happen at the waterfront. Even though I know the pick is going to be starting soon. You can't allow that. It's going to be to a point where somebody falls and they end up calling either Homestead Police or EMS because someone got hurt because of the waterfront's decision. Again, it's not against the board. It's not against none of you guys. It's the waterfront. It's going to get to the point where someone's going to get severely hurt down there. And it's going to get to like I said, it's going to get to a point where someone's going to get hurt and there's going to be major lawsuits against the waterfront if they seriously go through with these decisions by cutting service. It's not, God, they really just can't. They're going to hurt people. They're going to hurt a lot of people if they do this. I don't know if there's going to be any situation where the service gets restored down there, because that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the service to not get cut down there. I'm looking to have this thing restored because there's no reason for cuts down there to happen after all of these years. It's about time that we start standing up and fighting against these people. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board, Ms. Kellerman, elected officials, and other dignitaries. My name is Stuart Strickland, McCandless Township, and I speak only for myself, though I am the current secretary of ACTC, the official citizens advisory group to the PRT board. I am here to help answer the question, what can you, the board, do in this situation? I will not waste time on suggestions of what Harrisburg should do or asking you to do the impossible or things that are out of your control. There are things that PRT staff can do, and it's your job to help focus their efforts in that direction. The Allegheny County Transit Council is your friend, your sounding board, your rider representatives chosen by riders themselves. That is what we were legislated to provide, and that's what we've been doing since its predecessor organization, TAP, Transit Advocates and Patrons, was formed in 1980. Back in 1994, ACTC developed a 10-point plan for helping make transit service more desirable. Copies of this were hung in the boardroom at Manchester in every operating division for many years. It's worth restating it here. What the rider expects, and the first one of these is written in bold print, every transit rider is entitled to expect to be treated like a paying customer whose business is important, to receive pleasant, calm, and patient service from all transit personnel, to board a clean, trash-free, and appropriately heated or cooled vehicle and have a seat if traveling a longer distance, that the vehicle will stop at the curb if possible, will be on time, and that the driver will check the area for additional riders before leaving, to be driven safely as smoothly as the road allows and free of quick stops, lurching starts, and hard turns, to have a transit trip cost less than a similar trip by automobile and not take significantly more time, to have convenient access to readily understandable fare, scheduling, and routing information, to be able to tell when and where to board the vehicle and figure out where it is going before boarding it, that any changes to the schedule or routing will occur infrequently and be made with adequate advance notice, and lastly, to have complaints, concerns, and suggestions accepted, acted upon promptly, and to be advised of the actions taken. I know you cannot force Harrisburg's hand, but you and the staff can make the lot for the transit rider more attractive, despite all the gloom and doom from the public and hostile media. I think it comes down to this. Listen to ACTC, do what's on that 10-point list, and be vocal about what you are doing well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Last speaker. The next speaker is Abhishek Viswanathan. Abhishek, hi. Welcome. And then yes, Linda, I will have you after. Gentlemen, please.
Good morning. My name is Abhishek Viswanathan, and I'm an assistant professor of data science at Chatham University and a transit rider and an advocate. I'm here today to urge you to consider or maybe reconsider the scope of your duties as PRT to include advocating for transit riders. For the past few months, along with many passionate members of PPT, I've written letters to senators, canvassed at bus stops, printed out and distributed maps of bus routes, conducted bus shelter audits, sidewalk audits, talked to other transit riders about issues, but I've still been frustrated by infrequent and unreliable service, annoyed at the lack of strategy or savvy to deal with landlords at the waterfront, or dealing with the DHS regarding the Allegheny Go program. And recently, I've been shocked at how cavalier PRT was about instating the devastating 40% cuts, all while saying that your hands are tied. I think a significant amount of power actually does lie in your hands, should you choose to wield it. PRT should regularly report on and set goals for ridership recovery, particularly compared to other transit systems. There should be reports on enrollment, goals, and actions around Allegheny Go and the Partner Pass. And PRT should also restore the full 71A, C, and D and 61D cuts, which have had devastating consequences. To your credit, I'm happy to learn that you have delayed the cuts for now and have put in place measures to communicate service changes to ACTC before they actually happen. Although, as Andrew pointed out earlier, these updates can still be a little vague and misleading. However, when the state of funding for our transit system is still uncertain, I was surprised to learn that PRT is still planning to go ahead with the bus line redesign. To me, this feels like a strange, surreal joke. Where do your priorities actually lie? Do you know? Can you figure that out? Can you actually listen to what transit riders are saying and improve service reliability rather than spend time and energy we don't have trying to overhaul a system that is already precarious? Do you want your legacy to be to gut a transit system and leave tens of thousands of people in the lurch? I don't think so. I urge PRT to show some backbone and actually champion the causes that transit riders have been calling on them to do. We need more frequent transit, not less. We need more accessible, reliable, and safe transit. And we need you to use your power to make sure that that happens. Riders have done our part and will continue to fight, but we need you to step up and fight too. Instead of fighting us, we need you to fight with us. Thank you.
That's where, yeah, sure.
Sorry.
You mind giving Diane your full name?
Huh?
Can you please give Diane your full name?
I can't hear you. Oh, Linda Van Buren, sorry. Okay, I decided to go back to school and I ride the bus to 2 CCAC locations. And the Allegheny campus is seriously lacking in direct transportation from downtown. Either have to take 2 buses and walk or 3 to get directly there. I am carrying art supplies and a computer tablet and have to start out 2 hours before my class starts to get there on time and be on crowded rush hour buses with people who are not exactly thrilled about my portfolio case, which is like 4 feet wide and 3 feet tall. If I could leave later, this would be less of an issue. I am very concerned about the cuts to the 54, which is the bus that goes past CCAC. It is bad enough as it is. It should not be that difficult. There needs to be a direct bus to this location. Also, it is necessary to keep the 29 Robinson, as I take some classes at that location as well, and those are in the evening. I need to get back from that location in the evening. Otherwise, I have to just give up those classes. I need the Strip District buses to run in the evening as well as the ones to the west and the ones to the west end as I take dance classes in the evenings as well. I would like it if they would take pedestrian safety more seriously as well. One place I cannot go is Pittsburgh Center for the Arts, as the bus stop requires me to cross Shady at 5th and is a very dangerous intersection with many turning cars, and I am unable to do so, which means cross the street even if with assistance from another person. So that's about all I have to say right now. I like it that they're working on the Liberty Avenue thing, but I hope they address Liberty Avenue safety. I hope they address where Pittsburgh Ballet Theater needs a real crosswalk there, not that little flashing thing, but an actual traffic light. I mean, I know you guys have nothing to do with that because the bus does stop there, which is great. But if I have to catch the bus to get home, I have to have someone walk me across the street. But thank you.
Can you just do a quick check?
Huh?
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Mike, can you do a quick check? I just want to make sure, and if members are okay with this, since again, we did move people to the front of the agenda, would like a check at the end of the meeting just to make sure we didn't miss them.
Absolutely. At this point, Madam Chair, we have no additional ones.
Okay, so if that's okay with everyone else, we'll just check back in at the end of the meeting to make sure that the people who are online, they may have popped up. Sure. Thank you. Okay, the next item of business is the report of the Performance Oversight Committee. Member McClenny, Chair.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, and everyone present today. The Performance Oversight Committee met last week, and I have 6 resolutions for the board's consideration. The committee first reviewed 1 procurement item and determined the bid to be in accordance with PRT's procurement policies and procedures and the price to be fair and reasonable. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends authorizing the award of the bid listed in the resolution for the amount of $3,764,999. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next resolution for your consideration would authorize PRT to enter into a lease with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. In February 2001, PRT entered into an agreement with PennDOT to lease property on Chateau Street and Beaver Avenue adjacent to PRT's Manchester Main Shop Maintenance Building for employee parking and transit patrons. The lease was for 25 years at no cost to PRT, though PRT is responsible for maintaining the property. In April 2009, the agreement was amended to permit PRT to sublease to third parties with PennDOT's approval. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends entering into a 10-year lease agreement with PennDOT in order to continue using a portion of the leased property to sublease to a third party and using the remainder of the lot for PRT employee parking. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Take that a motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next resolution would authorize PRT to enter into an interagency agreement with the City of Pittsburgh for the Liberty Avenue Highway Safety Improvement Project near the 26th Street ramp to PRT's East Busway. For the city to complete the project, it is requesting access to the East Busway on and around the 26th Street ramp during the project, and then access will be authorized to continue for the limited purpose of maintenance of the city's improvements. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends entering into an interagency agreement with the City of Pittsburgh for the performance of this project and continued maintenance. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Take that as a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The next resolution seeks the board's authorization for PRT to enter into an interagency agreement with the Borough of Ingram for the Ingram Avenue Improvement Project near the Ingram Avenue ramp to the West Busway. For the borough to complete the project, it is requesting access to the West Busway on and around the Ingram Avenue ramp during the project, and then access will be authorized to continue for the limited purpose of maintenance of the borough's improvements. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends entering into an interagency agreement with the Borough of Ingram for the performance of this project and continued maintenance. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
With that, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Second heard. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next resolution is seeking authorization for PRT to enter into an agreement with K&J Safety and Security Services Incorporated. PRT requires a contractor to provide professional safety consulting and safety management system support services. To obtain a qualified firm to perform these contract services, a request for proposals was prepared and publicly advertised. The proposal submitted by K&J Safety and Security Services Incorporated has been determined to be the highest rated proposal for the performance of the services. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends entering into a 5-year agreement with K&J Safety and Security Services Incorporated for a total not to exceed amount of $1,645,325 with the option to extend the term of the agreement up to 2 additional 1-year periods at the sole discretion of PRT. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. And with that, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
The final resolution is seeking authorization for PRT to extend and amend agreements to provide general architecture and engineering contract services on an as-needed basis. In December 2021, PRT entered into agreements with Michael Baker International, Inc. and Gannett Fleming, Inc. to perform these services. The agreements were authorized for an initial term of 4 years through December 31st, 2025, and for a total combined not to exceed amount of $20 million with the option to extend the agreements up to 1 additional year. PRT has determined that it is in its best interest to exercise the option for 1 additional year. The Performance Oversight The Performance Oversight Committee recommends extending the term of agreements with Michael Baker International, Inc. and Gannett Fleming, Inc. by 1 year to December 31st, 2026, and to increase the total authorized combined not to exceed amount by $6 million to ensure adequate funding for the continuity of the services. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
For a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The committee also received an update from PRT's internal audit staff regarding the fiscal year 2025 annual physical inventory. The audit's purpose is to ensure that the on-hand quantity for each inventory item is accurately recorded into PRT's PeopleSoft financial system so that transit operations is supported by having sufficient materials and supplies available when needed. The fiscal year 2025 inventory was conducted in a manner that provides reasonable assurance that inventory items were accurately counted and correctly recorded into PeopleSoft. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Our next report is of the Planning and Stakeholders Relations Committee, Member Terman, Chair.
Sure. Good morning, Chair Liptak, board members and stakeholders. The Planning and Stakeholders Relations Committee met last week. I have one item for the board. Staff presented an update on the October service changes. Several routing changes will occur, including the 28X will use a singular stop at the commercial curbside at the new Pittsburgh International Airport Terminal. Rail and bus routes impacted by the Mount Washington Tunnel detour will resume their normal routing upon completion of the project. Multiple routes operating at the waterfront will change routings at the direction of the property owner. The bus stops at John Eagles and Target will be terminated. The 54D routing in Polish Hill has shifted from Liberty Avenue to Bigelow Avenue due to a new weight restriction on the Herring Avenue Bridge. The 74 route has been updated to use Murray Avenue to Beacon Street to Shady Avenue on a daily basis. Runtime changes, frequency changes, variant changes, and trip time changes will also occur. Specific route details has been made available on the PRT website, and signage will be posted at the impacted bus stations and stops. Unless there's any questions, that concludes my report.
I just have one quick question, Madam.
Sure, go ahead.
Both, given the number of concerns raised about the recent service changes, I'm wondering if there's the ability to give some quick, responses to some of the service cuts with the 54, some of the things that were raised also last week, as well as the other questions that the members of the public raised.
Catherine, are you available to do that, please? And Member Fan, do you need Member Fan to repeat what she?
No, as I understand the question is a little more information. We had spoken, so staff had shared updates internally after the ACTC meeting. So first, anytime anyone is coming to us and asking for better and more information, obviously we should communicate better. I want to start off with that. So clearly, it doesn't matter if we think we're doing a great job. If someone is coming up and saying you're not doing a great job, there's obviously improvements we can do. We want to make sure that wherever we're getting information out, that we're driving people back to one place with accurate information. So if we're putting a flyer out, if we're doing something for information that's saying trip times are shifting, we often default to saying trip times are shifting, because if we put something out that says trip times are shifting AM peak, there may be a trip which is shifting at 9:15 AM. It's not necessarily AM peak. We don't capture that in a notice. Somebody reads that and they say, oh, well, I don't need to look at my schedule. Or someone will look at a notification with detail in it. And instead of grabbing a new schedule or looking at something, they take that notification as what's going on. So our process has been make sure folks know a schedule is shifting or a route is moving, but drive them back to our website. And we put, I think our standard process is all our changes, new schedules and maps and everything are available on the website a month out. We also have them available accessibly. Customer service can walk people through that. We can share the information. New printed schedules go out. However, it sounds like the process of us trying to drive people to where the information is accurate is not hitting that goal. So I think we can get something that comes back and is a little more information that we would use of here's what these changes are. But probably a good process for us would be something not just with ACTC, but also with our friends at PPT of where does that line go of getting enough information so people have it in front of them, but it's not in substitute of the actual schedule or something that's going with them. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess the last question is probably, you know, the one that many folks have already raised with the waterfront, if those conversations will be continuing or.
They will. And a point I want to stress is we're talking about it today. This is the 26th. The changes are to go in effect in 3 weeks. So we don't need, it would be fantastic to see everybody, but we don't need everyone out there on Sunday morning physically moving sawhorses and like setting things on fire in the parking lot. Please never set anything on fire because I told you to. But we have 3 weeks. We have time to still work this out. We have time to come up with a better solution. So we are actively working on that right now. So and we will definitely keep you posted. Anything else while I'm still up here, Madam Chair, Board Member Fan, anybody?
I don't, but it's.
End of my questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But follow up maybe next committee meeting or thereafter related to member fans' first request about the communication.
Got it.
Is
Thank
that
you.
okay? And this, I think in Ms. Chair Turman's committee would be appropriate.
Yes.
Great. And that's also a good point for us to have to start that conversation of what should be in there. So again, we can use what is industry standard, but if it doesn't meet the mark, then clearly we need to do better. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Fan.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions, that concludes my report.
Okay, the next report is of the Finance Committee. Member Sue Care will be handling this committee meeting today. Member, I believe you're online.
Yes, I apologize for not being present in person. Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow board members. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, September 18th, where 3 items were presented. The first item was a proposed resolution for authorization to adopt the amended fiscal year 2026 operating and capital budgets. PRT submitted a waiver request to PennDOT to allow PRT to use up to $106.7 million in 2026 state capital funding for operating purposes, and that request has since been approved by PennDOT. As a result, PRT will not be forced to reduce service or increase fares for 2 fiscal years. PRT currently projects its fiscal cliff to arrive in early fiscal year 2029. While there will be capital project delays due to the short-term use of capital funding for operational purposes, there will not be any impacts to safety-sensitive projects. This resolution seeks the board's adoption of an amended operating budget of $572,216,120 and an amended capital budget of $57,993,878. My fellow members, I respectfully request that the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. First, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second. Approved and second heard. Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay. Senator Williams?
I'm happy to vote for this today. I agree with how Catherine opened this, that this is a short-term Band-Aid solution, that we have some real long-term issues to address. And I want to thank everyone from the public who came and testified today, who came and testified at those hours-long public hearings, who came to a rally, who contacted their elected officials. Like, keep it up, because we're not done. We have a lot of work to do as a board, and your voice matters. So keep it coming, keep the suggestions coming, and thank you for the work you did. And I know I'm excited to work with the rest of the board to move forward and figure out a long-term solution. So thank you.
Anyone else? No? Having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
The second item was a proposed resolution seeking authorization for PRT to extend and amend an agreement for utility consulting and administrative support services with Eric Ryan Corp. This authorization would exercise the second and final agreement option years to extend the agreement through August 2026, and further seeks authorization to increase the not to exceed amount by $75,000. My fellow members, I respectfully request that the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing motion second, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries.
The final item was the presentation of the July and August 2025 financial results. It was reported that total operating income for July was over budget by $437,000 due to interest income being higher than budgeted. Total expenses for July were below budget by $8.3 million, primarily due to the category of other expenses. Total operating income for August was over budget by $247,000, again due to interest income. Total expenses for August were $2.7 million under budget due to lower salary and wages and purchased services. Total operating income is $312,000 greater than last fiscal year through August due to interest income. Total expenses through August are 1.1 million below last fiscal year due to every expense category being under budget except for utilities and other expenses. Total subsidies as of August were 7.3 million lower than last fiscal year due to federal stimulus usage that was fully exhausted last fiscal year. It was reported that PRT ended August with about $369.3 million in cash reserves. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my report.
Moving on to the report of the Technology Committee from Member Bergender. Mr. Chair.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow board members. The Technology Committee met on September 18th, and I have two resolutions for your consideration today. The committee first reviewed one bid. The item presented was for Cisco SmartNet licensing renewal. The committee determined the bid to be in accordance with PRT's procurement policies and procedures, and the price both fair and reasonable. The Technology Committee recommends the award of the item as listed in the resolution for the total amount of $238,102.41. My fellow board members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. With that, I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a motion is second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next resolution reviewed was for Farebox refresh services. However, PRT recently received a bid protest relating to this solicitation. In accordance with PRT's bid protest procedure, any further activity on this solicitation is on hold while PRT reviews and assesses the bid protest. The third resolution presented was for an amendment for an existing fair vending machine refresh agreement with Flowbird America, Inc. for additional smart cards and paper tickets in the amount of $911,246.39 for a new total not to exceed amount of $12,477,447.41. The committee concluded that these services are needed and respectfully recommends that the board vote in favor of the resolution to authorize this amendment. My fellow board members, I respectfully request that the board approve this resolution.
Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to approve.
So-
That is a motion and a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, or any questions, discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Following the presentation of the proposed resolutions, the committee was presented with information about the recent usage of rail system automatic passenger counters or APAs and the data analysis that PRT is able to conduct through the use of APCs to better track ridership and fare collection on the rail system. Unless there are questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, moving on. The next action items. Actually, they're just more recognition is under new business. We're going to recognize former Pittsburgh Regional Transit board members for their service and say thank you. Unfortunately, at the last minute, two former members, Senator Brewster and Senator Piscatano, notified myself and Catherine that they're unable to attend. Although I still would like for their recognition to be read into the record, I think that's appropriate. But we do have two former members here. So I would like to start with Dr. Versailles, member. If you could please read your recognition to former member, Lori Misgorski. Would you like to, what do you think? Laura, do you want to come up or do you want to, how should we do this? So I'm going to rely on the staff to see how they would like this done. And, you know, Representative Abney mentioned, I mean, you can go to the podium. It may be nice if you'd like to go up there to the podium. I thought that was a good suggestion as I rethought that. So to properly honor. So welcome back, Lori. Nice to see you.
It's my pleasure, Madam Chair and members of the board, to read this resolution. Whereas Representative Lori Misgorski, a resident and proud citizen of Allegheny County, was a dedicated member of the board of Port Authority of Allegheny County, doing business as Pittsburgh Regional Transit. And whereas in 1989, member Misgorski received an undergraduate degree in English from Hood College. And whereas member Misgorski has long been involved in serving the public through elected office and other public service. She was an elected commissioner in Shaler Township from 2010 to 2018 and served as chief of staff to State Representative Hal English from 2013 to 2018. And whereas member Misgorski was appointed by the Pennsylvania Governor's Office to the Conservation and Natural Resources Advisory Council and served as a board member of the Allegheny River Towns Enterprise Zone. And whereas in 2018, member Misgorski successfully ran for the Pennsylvania State House, winning a seat representing the 30th House District, which she held until 2022. And whereas while serving in the Pennsylvania House, she was a member of several committees, including Labor and Industry, Local Government, Transportation, and Urban Affairs. And whereas member Misgorski was initially appointed to PRT's board by the Pennsylvania Speaker of the House, commencing on April 19th, 2019, and served until she resigned from the board effective April 4th, 2025. And whereas during her tenure on PRT's board, member Misgorski served as chair of the Technology Committee. And whereas the board of the PRT wishes to express its heartiest gratitude to member Misgorski for her excellent service and effective leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution be adopted in honor and recognition of and in gratitude for the devoted and excellent service to PRT provided by member Misgorski during her time serving on PRT's board. Jennifer M. Liptak, Board Chair, Port Authority of Allegheny County. Congratulations.
Next, hiding back there, I see you. I didn't see you at the beginning. We have Allie Doyle. Member McClenny is going to present you with your recognition. Thank you very much, Allie, for coming.
Hi, Allie. Whereas Allie Doyle, member Doyle, a resident and proud citizen of Allegheny County, was a dedicated member of the Board of Port Authority of Allegheny County, doing business as Pittsburgh Regional Transit, PRT, and whereas in 2011, member Doyle received a bachelor's degree in education from the University of Dayton. And whereas member Doyle has long been involved in serving the public. From 2015 through the present, she has held various roles within the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, including economic development consultant, Southwest Deputy Director, Assistant Deputy Director of Operations, Governor's Action Team, and currently as Managing Director, Business Attraction. And whereas Member Doyle holds a certification as an Economic Development Finance Professional, and whereas Member Doyle served as Southwest Director for the Office of Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf during 2020 to 2023, and whereas Member Doyle was also a member of the Board of River Life between 2020 to 2023, River Life is an organization devoted to reclaiming, restoring, and promoting Pittsburgh's riverfronts. And whereas in July of 2022, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf appointed Member Doyle to serve on the board of PRT, and she served as a PRT board member until her term ended September 16th, 2025. And whereas during her tenure on PRT's board, Member Doyle served as treasurer, chair of the Finance Committee, and as a member of the Planning and Stakeholder Relations Committee and the Nominating Committee. And whereas the Board of PRT wishes to express its heartfelt gratitude to Member Doyle for her excellent service and effective leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution be adopted in honor and recognition of and in gratitude for the devoted and excellent service to PRT provided by Member Doyle as a PRT board member.
Okay, yeah.
Next, honoring Representative, now Senator Nick Piscatano, who unfortunately is not here today, will be Representative Abney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the pleasure of reading this resolution for my colleague up in Harrisburg in the other chamber, who I would personally consider to be a true statesman. And I think even beyond just being my colleague, I consider him to be a good friend. And despite the fact that he is not physically here present today, I am truly honored at the opportunity to be able to present this resolution, which reads as follows. Whereas Senator Nick Piscatano, Member Piscatano, a resident and proud citizen of Allegheny County, was a dedicated member of the Board of Port Authority of Allegheny County, doing business as Pittsburgh Regional Transit, PRT. And whereas in 2012, Member Piscatano received an undergraduate degree from Washington and Jefferson College and a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University in 2019. And whereas Member Piscatano initially worked in the private sector as a certified public accountant and auditor with an extensive background in finance and economics. Whereas in 2020, Member Piscatano was elected to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives for the 38th District, where he was reelected in 2022 and served on the Consumer Protection, Transportation, Commerce, and Labor and Industry Committees. And whereas in 2024, Member Piscatano successfully ran for the Pennsylvania State Senate, winning a seat representing the 45th Senatorial District that was formerly held by James Brewster, another former member of PRT's board and longtime public servant. And whereas Member Piscatano also devoted his time to serving as a volunteer with many organizations dedicated to the public good, including serving as a past president of the West Mifflin Community Foundation and as a past mentor with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Pittsburgh. Whereas Member Piscatano was initially appointed to PRT's board by the Pennsylvania House Minority Leader on November 30th, 2022, while he was still a member of the State House of Representatives, and served on PRT's board through February 28th, 2025. And whereas during his tenure on PRT's board, Member Piscatano served as board vice chair and as chair of the Performance Oversight and Monitoring Committee. And whereas the board of PRT wishes to express its heartfelt gratitude to Member Piscatano for his excellent service and effective leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution be adopted in honor and recognition of and in gratitude for the devoted and excellent service to PRT provided by Member Piscatano during his time serving on PRT's board. I will submit this for the record. Thank you.
Senator Nancy Williams, recognizing former Senator Jim Brewster. Senator Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I'm sad that Senator Brewster is not here because I miss him terribly. And it's an honor to read this resolution. I miss him because I used to sit with him in the back corner of the Democratic caucus room in the Senate, and we'd cause trouble together, much to Senator Costa's chagrin. But without further ado, whereas James R. Brewster, member Brewster, a resident and proud citizen of Allegheny County, was a longtime member of the Board of Port Authority of Allegheny County, doing business as Pittsburgh Regional Transit, PRT. And whereas member Brewster received a degree in education from the California University of Pennsylvania. And whereas, after working in the private sector as a vice president of operations for Mellon Bank, member Brewster embarked upon a career dedicated to public service, having served as McKeesport City Councilman from 1995 to 2004, including service as president of that council for 6 years. He was later elected the mayor of the city of McKeesport and served in that office from 2004 to 2010. And whereas in 2010, member Brewster was elected to the Pennsylvania Senate representing the 45th Senatorial District and held office as a state senator until his retirement in 2024. And during that time, he served on several important Senate committees and consistently advocated for the support of Pennsylvania public transit. And whereas member Brewster also devoted his time to serving as a volunteer board member of many organizations dedicated to the public good, including the Allegheny County League of Municipalities, the Pennsylvania League of Cities and Municipalities, the McKeesport Housing Authority, and the Pennsylvania Higher Education Association, among many others. And whereas member Brewster was initially appointed to PRT's board by the Pennsylvania Senate Minority Leader on August 9th, 2013, and he served continuously on the board until his resignation from the board effective March 20th, 2025. And whereas during his tenure on PRT's board, member Brewster proudly served as board secretary and chair of the Financial Audit Committee. And whereas the board of PRT wishes to express its heartfelt gratitude to member Brewster for many years of excellent service and effective leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution be adopted in honor and recognition of and in gratitude for the devoted and excellent service to PRT provided by member Brewster during his time serving on PRT's board.
Prior to announcing our next meeting, I'd like a recheck on the individuals that signed up online. Is
Tiara's online.
Tiara's? Oh, great. Thank you.
That's the only person we're seeing.
Appreciate that. I think that came from the back room. So thank you guys for letting us know. Appreciate it. Tiara Collins, we had moved to public comments earlier in the meeting. I understand you're online now. Before we end the meeting, I'd like to give you an opportunity to provide your comment. Tiara?
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tiara Collins, and I'm a current resident of the Greenfield area. And basically, I would love to talk about the bus service and how it really just isn't working for us. Perhaps I would most definitely like to talk about my service from today. I had to wait for a 58 to go to physical therapy. The bus only runs every hour in the morning. I don't understand why we only get a bus every hour. I had to catch a 93 from where I live, go get off at 2nd and Greenfield Avenue, and then walk the rest of the way to my doctor's appointment. That's a half-hour walk. So I can only imagine how this service is affecting people who are older than me. I'm only 51, but currently I'm disabled because I have a cane. I got injured and I'm going to physical therapy. And this getting back and forth to my appointment to physical therapy has become the biggest trial of my life. I didn't realize when I moved to where I was at that the service was this bad. I didn't realize these buses only ran every hour. There's 3 buses that go up and down my street, and none of them are at all under any circumstances a bus that's dependable that I can use to get to any of my appointments or to anywhere. Even if I wanted to come down there this morning, I would have had to have left my house almost 2 hours before just to get there. This is not something that we should have to continue to deal with. What I'm noticing is you always keep saying how you want to make the service better, but I'm telling y'all, every time y'all do something, y'all make the service worse and worse and worse. And quite frankly, I don't see y'all making the service better. I see y'all just making the service more of a hindrance for people who need to catch the bus. I'm done. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online? No other speakers? Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for next regular meeting for Friday, October 24th, 2025. With that, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.